Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Karen. I'm the member specialist from America Outdoors. I'll be hosting us today. So welcome and thank you for joining our series. We have two more upcoming webinars in the series. Next Thursday, we will have one at 2 o'clock Eastern, and then we will have another one on November 1st on that following Wednesday. So hopefully you can tune in for those. For right now, I'm going to introduce Clement Cullen. He is the co-founder of Outdoors by Owner. He has a presentation for you on conscientious consumerism. So I will let him take over. Feel free to jump in the chat or post any questions if you have anything at the time. Otherwise, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Am I ready to go?
Here you are good to go.
All right. Hey guys, my name is Clement Cullens, like Karen said, and I'm the co-founder of Outdoors by Owner. We are a new short-term rental platform, kind of like Airbnb or VRBO, except we encourage people to rent houses near the outdoors. So from hunting and fishing to hiking and biking, anything in between, that's what we're encouraging people to do. And the way we do that is through acquiring listings that are proximate to cool things to do. Of course, I'm not here today to talk about my company. I'm here to talk about my company's awesome nonprofit giving strategy. And to tell you guys why it's something similar to what we're doing is not only good business practice, but also turns into a marketable event and is something that you can feel good about. You can trust where it's going to fall on your bottom line and give you some certainty in your plan giving strategy as you move forward with your businesses. So where to start? I guess at the beginning. So my partner and I founded Outdoors by Owner. We're avid outdoorsmen, avid travelers, and we saw this this kind of gap in the world where the short-term rental platforms weren't really providing any sort of accommodation to people who like to get outdoors. And so as avid outdoorsmen and travelers, we took this challenge head on and decided that we were going to start a company that did that. Well, we're also avid conservationists. And so when we started the company, one of the main things we thought was, okay, how do we give back? How do we make sure that giving is one of the cornerstones of our company? And what's the best way to achieve that? And we are a startup, right? So we needed a planned giving strategy that would be flexible, would allow us to donate back, and allow us to help the organizations and the places that we like and need and believe in. So for Outdoors by Owner, and you may hear me call it OBO from time to time, for OBO, that became pretty apparent what our path forward should be. So for us, we acknowledge that we're encouraging people to go and use the natural resources in an area, whether that's a hiking trail or paddling trail or harvesting flora and fauna, right? So by the nature of our business, we're creating environmental impacts. And so we decided right off the bat to mitigate that as responsibly as we could. And so what we do in OBO is we partner with nonprofits, NGOs that are in the geographic regions that we have houses, have listings, and then we give back to them. Specifically, we give back 100% of our merchandise proceeds, and then 5% of our profits. And that's where things get a little bit complicated, and I'll spare most of the details. But for us, we give 5% of the profits to any house that's located near one of our NGOs. We get 5% of the profits from that house, and then any house that's not near an NGO that we partner with, we just kind of split the pot evenly. We do the same with our merchandise proceeds. We just divide that pro rata by all of our NGO partners. And this seemed like a very common sense approach to us. And so we put it into action, and it was really well received. The NGOs that we partner with, they're excited about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and it's really turned into a marketable event for both us and the NGO. They get to support us by talking about us on social media, or we give a discount code to all of their membership and all of their readership. We get to promote them by advertising on the website and giving back to them financially at the end of every year. And so it's been a really good and rewarding experience as a company. But more importantly, for today's discussion, it turned into a planned giving strategy. And so now I'm going to take you guys back a little bit. Before I was a bearded technology entrepreneur, I was a clean-shaven young lawyer. I can't hear anyone, but I'm hoping there's boos and hisses. So I practiced law for about a decade before hopping into the tech startup world. And I can tell you that at my firm, and then prior to that, I was an outdoor guide. I was a kayaking, camping, and fishing guide for many years. But at my firm and at the outfitter that I worked at before, there was always an ask. Either there's an ask for a donation or an ask in some sort from NGOs that were wanting to partner with us, get a donation, whatever it may be. And that looks like a lot of different things at the different stages in my life, but what they all shared throughout, the one tether was, I couldn't tell you on January 1st what our donations were going to be for any of my businesses until December 31st of that year, right? So you get hit up here, you get hit up there. I know small business owners, we all want to give back, and we all feel the need to give back. And it's almost an obligation that most folks feel to give to the local community, give to NGOs, give back to things you're passionate about. And that's great. But I think for most of us as small business owners, it creates almost a variable cost, right? Like, you don't know what you're going to spend day in and day out, year in and year out, giving to these NGOs or giving to these conservation initiatives, or maybe it's a local school, whatever it may be. It's hard to forecast out what that's going to be. Compounding that, it's generally additive, right? So I sit on the board of probably 12 NGOs now. I'm the chairman of 4 of them. And I know year in and year out that if I want to get donations in kind, get donations of money, get anything, I go back to the donors from last year, right? And they generally give. And so over the course of 5 years for a small business, you may see a 300% increase in your charitable giving, which is great. But it's only great if you plan for it and you know you can afford it. And and you know what's going on. So the first part of our strategy was to turn that variable cost into, I shudder kind of at the word cost. It's not a cost. It's an output, right? But it's an output of company dollars that for us as a young business, we needed to really be cognizant of where those dollars were going. So we turned that potentially variable cost into a fixed cost. And then on top of that, it turned into what became, as I talked about earlier, a marketable event for us. So I would say that the two implications to take away for defining your giving strategy would be you get a little bit of certainty. And I'm not saying, create a rubric and then hold to it and never go outside of the bounds of what you've created. That would be against the spirit of giving back, right? But it puts some bounds on what you know you're going to be doing or what you think you're going to be doing. And then it does create that marketable event for both you and the NGO. And like I said, whether that's a school or a conservation group or whatever it may be. But to do that is a little bit of a challenge, right? So it takes a little bit of discipline, or in our case for our first year, a very little bit of cash flow, right? We didn't have the option in our first year to go out and just spend willy-nilly. So it takes a little bit of discipline to create a program that will achieve goals that are in line with you or your business. And it takes a little bit of forecasting. And so what my partner and I did is we have very similar interests in the conservation world, and I would say very divergent interests in the rest of our charitable giving that we do individually. And so what we did is we limited it to the business in the first instance, right? So what NGOs can we partner with that are in alignment with our business? And then we took it from there. So for us, because we are creating these impacts on the environment wherever we're encouraging people to go, that's just part of it, right? You walk on a footpath, that footpath may not change much, but it'll never be the same. So for us, it became all about mitigating the environmental impacts of where we're sending people to go explore and recreate. And we want those places to be beautiful for this generation and the next generation and the next generation. So that was very easy for us. What was difficult was kind of limiting it and saying, okay, from a business perspective, we're going to limit it to just conservation groups, and we're going to do, again, one conservation group per eco-region that we're in. And those are kind of flexible boundaries that we have, and they fluctuate with population density and our listing density and things like that. So there's a lot to how we have planned that, but at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're giving back to organizations that we believe in and organizations that believe in us, and we're doing that in a planned, strategic way. So at the end of every year, I know that we are going to give back 5% of our profits, and we're going to give back 100% of our merchandise profits. And I'll touch on that briefly, just because I think for us it's an interesting point, and one that I think a lot of outfitters can hop onto from a tangential point, and that is our business is in the short-term rental world, right? Like our core competency is providing accommodations for people who want to do things in the outdoors. And so it was a very easy decision for us to carve out the proceeds from a secondary income stream. In this case, merchandise proceeds. So we have branded hats. I'm wearing one. You can get them at goobo.com. Great looking. But we give 100% of our merchandise proceeds. And that was easy because it's not our core competency. And so to me, that's a great place to start is I'm not going to say surplus profits because that's a crazy idea for a small business, but profits that fall outside of your core competency. Those have been easy wins for us to carve out because they're dollars that we weren't anticipating anyways. It's also meaningful to the conservation partner, right? Or the NGO, whatever that may be, because it's 100% of something. It's a true commitment. So taking that true commitment and that 100% is really how we've pushed several NGOs over the line. And then, non-contractually, I guess the other component to our plan giving strategy is that we have a baseline dollar amount that we haven't agreed on this with any of our partners, but we have a baseline dollar amount that at the end of the year, if we don't have profits to justify that amount, we'll write that amount as a check anyways. And so even then, it is a fixed cost to us. So that's sort of the rubric that we've used. And I think that it's something that anyone in the outdoors world, in the outfitting world, in the retail world can latch on to, and there's so many easy wins. Now, from my perspective, we are a multi-state business. We operate across 1,000 miles north to south and 500 miles east to west. So for us, it's fairly easy to have these big picture goals and achieve them. For smaller businesses, I get it. Somebody knocks on the door and says, hey, can you donate a rafting trip, or can you donate some t-shirts or whatever to a school event? It's tough to say no to those things. And I do encourage flexibility. And, I think that's a prime example of sort of an X bucket, similar to how we have the minimum we're going to give to each group we partner with every year. If there's a willingness on the company's part to have a flex spending bucket, but a little bit of diligence on and discipline on where we're going to use those dollars, then it becomes a win. And so I think my three main takeaways are: partner with groups that make sense for your business. And again, I know that's tough. And that's not the same thing for every different business, right? Like there are a million different scenarios where certain groups may fall in to your business's alignment that wouldn't be obvious. Maybe it is a school, right? Maybe that school patronizes your outfitting for field trips or whatever a few times a year. If it's a school that is soliciting donations, then maybe that's in alignment with you. But just identifying those core partnerships and what that looks like to you from a business standpoint is incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly calming. So, you don't have the stress of I've been asked for X, Y, and Z. it allows you to say no to things that you aren't certain are in alignment with your business or your values or whatever, a little bit easier. And if you guys are like me, you hate saying no to things like that. So figuring out who your partners are or could be is kind of step one of the analysis. Step two is creating that rubric for how you're going to give, whether that's a percentage give or a fixed number of dollars per year to those partners. Maybe there's a flex bucket in there where you can say, you know, we'll allocate $500, $1,000 to anything that comes in the door and we feel good about. And then step three is turning that relationship into as much of a marketable event as possible. And for us, I touched on this earlier. What Oboe is doing is we're providing dollars and a commitment and advertising, and what our partners are doing is providing social media exposure, brand awareness, and just general traffic to our site, which to us is kind of that's the goal. That's as much as we would like to ask out of our partners, given that we already believe in them and we already believe in what they do. So, and then I guess the other thing that we do for our partners is we do provide a discount to their readership or their subscribers or their social media following. Anybody they want to give, we send postcards, we give them a discount code they can promote on social media. Anybody they want to give that to that comes across them, it's just a little bit of an added bonus. So that's our version of a marketable event. And what that could mean in different industries is a lot of things, right? Whether it's social media posts or whether it's just you telling your patrons that you're doing that. It could be as simple as having a banner in your shop or on your bus or whatever that says the partnerships that you have, and those things, while they seem small, really create a sense of community. It creates a sense of giving back, and it creates a sense of, for a lot of people, they want to do business with people who are giving back. And so it really, in and of itself, if you have a defined giving strategy, then you've already taken most of the hurdle out of how do I monetize this? And I do want to be clear, we don't give back to NGOs, to these conservation groups to make money. That is not what we're about. But we're a small business, just like you guys are small business owners or employees, and any exposure we can get is great, and we'd be foolish not to highlight our partners and highlight them in a meaningful way, and have them highlight us where they're willing to do that, so that everybody gets that sense of community. Everybody knows that we are giving back, and everybody knows who we're giving back to. So those are kind of the high level goals of a planned giving strategy. And like I said, there's a million different ways that you can carve this up for your business, whether that's only partnering with a certain number of groups, partnering with a number of groups, and then having, that flex bucket with, I'm going to spend an extra $1,000 on, sponsoring some other business or some other NGO that doesn't really fall into alignment with our core business principles. And then, I guess there's sort of a third optionality there where you really do just carve out a number of dollars. For our business, it makes sense to do it as a percentage of the merchandise sales and a percentage of profits. But the optionality is always there to just plan a number of dollars and use those dollars until they're gone. I would encourage, if that is something your business is interested in, to still go through the analysis and know the businesses, know the NGOs, or at least the types of NGOs that you would want to partner with. That way you'll at least have some certainty around what it is that you're going to be doing through that part of the business. And guys, I really do. I see this as very much a part of our business. It's a very feel-good part of the business. It's a very rewarding part of the business, but it really has created a lot of exposure and a lot of good press for us, and it's something that we believe in. And so those three things make our plan giving strategy really a core principle that we rely on heavily to generate brand awareness and to generate interest in our brand. And there's nothing more rewarding than writing those checks at the end of the year and saying, hey, thank you for all that you've done. Well, let's line it up and do it again next year. So those are kind of the high talking points. I want to get into just briefly a couple of things. One is how do you approach potential partners? So you've gone through the analysis, you've gone through and done your pros and cons. These are the types of NGOs we want to partner with. These are the types that we like but don't really fall into our strategic giving. Once you've done that, then you're really faced with two options, right? And for a lot of local small businesses, it's going to be easy. You know the executive director or the chairperson or whomever of the local NGO that you want to partner with. For us, we largely call on these NGOs and then follow up with a partnership letter. Then Karen is going to be emailing out. I've done a sample partnership letter and a sample partnership agreement that you guys are welcome to take and use and change. And I will just give my general disclaimer that nothing I'm doing here today is either legal or accounting tax advice. So yeah, use them at your own risk. I feel confident in our agreements for Georgia, where I'm located, and for the states that we operate in. But really, that to us, getting out ahead of the solicitation is a good way to put some parameters on the giving strategy and really get that partnership up and rolling. What I have seen in my previous lives and as an NGO board member and just general community member is that a lot of NGOs solicitations are event specific. So whether it's a gala or a retreat or some auction or whatever, that's where they come knocking, and that's for good reason. That's where they can get the best ROI for what they're looking for. They can hit their numbers. It's definitely a good strategy for the NGO. For us, what we like to do is get out ahead of that, get our partnerships lined up early in the year. Typically, there's not a whole lot going on from an event standpoint. And January, February, most of what we're seeing is March through November. So if we can get out ahead, get those partnership letters out, get our partners for the year lined up, it really makes the conversations around the event-specific stuff easier, and we do try to support the events that we can, and we do that in a variety of ways, whether we partner with our homeowners to give away weekends for events or auctions, or we partner with guides and outfitters a lot, and so we might get a guide or an outfitter to donate a trip, whatever it may be. But at least from a financial standpoint, all the cards are on the table. They know what our commitment is, and for us that gives us certainty, and for them, they know that money is coming, and so it really makes the relationship, the partnership with the NGO a lot more cohesive, and in our limited experience with this. So it's really a great way to get that partnership established, put the parameters around it, and then go from there. And again, I preach to my team about the planning portion of the giving, but we remain flexible, and to us, anyone that's helping us out or believes in us will bend over backwards to help them as well. And it's led to some really great relationships with our NGOs. It's been very empowering, I think, to both sides. I know on our side, it's really, really been a bastion to our business to have the backing and the faith of these NGOs. And it's all transactional, right? Like there's a personal component to it, but at the end of the day, it is transactional. We're promising to do something, they're promising to do something, but that's okay, right? Like everything doesn't have to be just good spirited. At the end of the day, I know that NGOs need funding. I know that if I believe in them, I'm comfortable giving that funding, and I know that they believe in us and are promoting us. Certainly not as part of their core mission, but as an aside to their core business competency, and that's just very, very rewarding. So we send out the letters to solicit the partnerships. Again, it's usually followed up or led with a phone call. And then I guess because of my lawyerish background here, we do follow up with a partnership agreement. And again, you guys will have access to the partnership agreement. It's just a sample agreement. It's super simple. It's an easy opt-out. If it's not working out, we want to be able to terminate. If it's not working out for them, we want them to be able to terminate. But it establishes that framework that I've been talking about. We're going to give you X. We're going to give you Y. We'd like for you to do these things. And I say we'd like for you to do these things, and I'll get to that in a minute, why we characterize it that way. But then we give everybody, 30 days to opt out. At any point, they can opt out on 30 days notice. That allows us time. And to date, I'm going to knock on wood, we've never exercised or had it exercised against us, the opt-out clause. We can just simply, on 30 days notice, we can terminate the agreement, and everybody walks away. That 30 days for us is important because we have discount codes that are outstanding and social media posts that may be scheduled and things like that. So I find it. I don't know if I'm going to use the word necessary. I'm going to use the word necessary. I find it necessary to lay out the expectations somewhat formally, because that does provide the framework. And we know that we're making a pretty big commitment to the NGOs, and they're making a pretty big commitment to us, and it just helps me sleep at night, right? It provides some certainty. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know what they're supposed to be doing, and that's that. So that's all just codified. It's a one-page agreement. It's about as boilerplate as it can get. It says who's who and what you're going to do. Very, very simple. So that is soup to nuts how we do it. And I'm going to just take up my last 5 or 7 minutes here, telling you guys a couple of the pitfalls to watch out for. So obviously, this is not a super businessy part of the business, right? It should be a very go along, get along proposition. NGOs are typically great, and I'd like to think that we're great when we participate with them. But there are some things that will pop up from time to time, and probably the biggest one is this 3-letter acronym UBI, which is income to nonprofits that is not in their core competency, right? So it can be anything from t-shirt sales to auctions. There's a lot of ways that NGOs can run afoul of the UBI restrictions from the IRS. And basically, without this being legal or accounting advice, the way that we see not getting around this, but to not run afoul of the UBI restrictions is we don't create a quid pro quo, right? We don't create, hey, you have to do this and we're going to pay you to do this. It's not you put us on social media and we'll give you $500. That's where NGOs can really run afoul, and they can take in income that I believe can jeopardize their nonprofit status. Certainly, it creates tax implications, and that's something that I'm sure any of your accountants or any of their accountants can talk to you about. But the main pitfall here is to not go out and solicit quid pro quos, which is a pretty easy concept. At least for me, it's not about the transactional nature of the relationship. It's about the relationship, and it's about the audiences, and it's about exposure for the NGO, and it's about giving to the NGO, and it's about exposure for us. So ours is very much, we'd like for you to do this. We're going to give you these dollars regardless of what you do, but here's some guidelines for what we're asking you to do. And so those types of pitfalls, you may, if you try to get into a plan giving strategy and you try to outline who your partners are and you try to do it through an agreement, I would imagine that every now and again you'll be met with UBI questions, and obviously that's something to take to your accountant or their accountant, but it's definitely something that will pop up. It's easily avoided, but if it's something you're not aware of, it can turn a potential partnership into a cold dead end pretty quickly. And I can tell you guys that from experience. I was not familiar with this UBI stuff at all, despite being a lawyer, despite sitting on lots of nonprofit boards. It's just something I had never come across, and we made a solicitation, and the executive director of that nonprofit said, well, what about, how does this not trigger the UBI tax implications? And I said, I don't know. And so then I went and figured it out. And it was one of those painful lessons where I had to eat a little bit of crow and kind of crawl back to him and say, well, this is how it works. We've got a sample approval from our accountant. You guys go talk to your accountant. But it was a little bit embarrassing, to say the least, especially as we were setting out. I think it may have been the first NGO that we tried to partner with. So definitely a downtrodden start for us. It was one of the first few. But that's the main pitfall. And the other thing that I'll say is being a recipient of a planned giving strategy is not in the ethos or in the cards for some nonprofits that you or I might want to partner with for our businesses. And that was a tough pill to swallow for us. Some groups that we really liked didn't like the idea of entering into a contractual agreement, even though it's pretty easy to get in and out of. And at some point, we just had to make the business decision that, if they weren't comfortable with it, then that was kind of our mantra, was to have the planned giving strategy through an agreement. And so we just had to pivot away from those groups. That is kind of few and far between, and typically those groups that express some hesitation will ultimately, be fine with it once they see what's going on and know that it's not anything crazy. It's simple agreement. So I told Karen I can talk for hours and hours, but I promised to leave 15 minutes for Q&A, and I'm going to hold fast on that. I think I'm ready for Q&A. I don't know how to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, let me jump back in here. I don't have any questions in the chat. I don't have any chat or questions yet. So if anybody who's listening wants to ask them, feel free to turn your mic on and ask a question, or raise your hand, type them in if there is anything. If there aren't any questions at this point, Clement, I would just love to comment. I think that you've got a really good ideas for organizations like this. When we talk about outfitters and what they do, I think they're often pulled, especially with stewardship and conservation. There's a lot of pull to donate to different organizations. And they do love the idea that you're basing on thinking ahead and saying that we're going to donate the proceeds of this product or this service, or a certain percentage. Really gives you a good sitting in front of perspective. And for any of those that come to you, that you can say, we can put this on the table with our team for next year, and to really have that commitment to what you're doing and how much you're doing. And that way, if you don't have a stellar year, you're still committed just that percentage or just that product. So it's not going to make you feel like you're taking back on your business. So I really like that could really be useful in the outfitter organization. So thank you.
Thank you. And that brings up just sort of a procedural point, and that is, if your business is interested in creating a planned giving strategy like this, most NGOs, most businesses and NGOs are we're getting into the season where they're plotting out their budgets for next year. And so sort of the last couple months of the year is a great time to at least start lining up, get those partnership letters out, and start painting the picture for what the giving strategy might be next year.
Yeah. Cricket, I see your question. We are recording the session. The session will be recorded, and then I believe it's 1 day from now, you will get that automatically recorded. We will also be posting that on our website, so you will have access to the recording.
Does it have video too? Do they get to look at my pretty face if they if
They
they?
they will. They will get to
Oh
look at
no.
it.
Oh
Yes,
no.
yes.
Uh,
Um, do we have any other questions in the group, or Clement, anything else you want to add to this? Because
I'm
I don't see any other questions or hands.
I'm definitely not out of words, but I'm happy to cut it out.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any questions, let's wrap up for the day. Again, thank you, and Outdoors by Owner OBO, thank you for putting this on for us. And like you said, we will have some of those examples of the paperwork sent out to you later as well.
Yeah, and
And
if anybody has any follow up, can you share my email with the group, my email address and phone number, or yeah, I'm happy to talk through anything with anybody that's interested in pursuing something like this.
absolutely, absolutely. So, thank you again for presenting for us. Thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you all in the next session.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.